Chapter 1. The Demon's Tree. Who would willingly jump into a dark, bottomless pit, not knowing what lurks inside? Joe Jr. wouldn't. In fact, this might even be too much for you horror lovers out there. But if we were to ask Joe Jr., who didn't jump into that dark, bottomless pit, what he thought about making a deal with the demon, what would he say? 1945 AD, United States. Joseph was a farmer. His eldest son, Joseph Jr., was born to be a farmer too, and was growing into that role. In truth, Joe Jr. had no other siblings. So what made Joe Jr. the eldest? To avoid keeping you in suspense, Joe Jr. was the eldest, even though he had no siblings, because nothing that entered his mother Mary's womb after him was ever born alive. Yes, all the babies were alive inside Mary's belly, but when they were born, it was as if they'd been told to act like they'd never lived at all. Father Joe had a cruel nickname for Mary, Cursed Womb Saint Mary. One evening, Mary dreamt that she gave birth to a dead rabbit. Of course, she didn't tell her husband, Father Joe. She knew that his superstitions would twist an innocent nightmare into something else entirely. Maybe it would even end with Father Joe giving Joe Jr. a good beating when he got drunk that night. Don't look for logic in that last statement. I'm talking about Father Joe's actions here. But if you look at it from the right angle, you can see the simple reasoning. I digress. Sorry, let me get back on track. Mary gave birth to 9 dead children throughout her life, and when the 9th dead child went into the ground, it took Mary with it. Joe Jr. was happy for his mother. When Mary died, she looked more peaceful than she had during all those painful years of giving birth to fertilizer babies. That night, the demon planted a seed on their land, right next to the family cemetery. The tree was 10 years younger than the orphaned Joe Jr. 6 years passed. The demon's tree sprouted and grew as large as a 100-year-old oak, its roots spreading beneath the house, its shadow looming over it. During this time, life on Father Joe's farm carried on as usual. Don't worry, you didn't miss anything. Nothing particularly horrifying, mysterious, or tragic happened during those 6 years. The only thing worth noting is that shortly after Mary's death, Father Joe remarried. His new wife, Sophia, gave him 4 daughters: Sandra, Sally, Samantha, and Sarah. Everything was going normally at the tree-shadowed house until a storm, signaling the approach of strange events, arrived. Now, let me pause for a moment. You're probably wondering how I know all of this. Who's telling this story, buddy? How the hell do you know about Mary's nightmare? Liar! Dummy! Go fool some kids! I can almost hear you saying that. Do you remember the question I asked at the beginning of the story? If we were to ask Joe Jr. what he thought about making a deal with the demon, what would he say? I'm not Joe Jr. If I'm not Joe Jr., then there's only one logical answer left. The other subject in the question. The one whose truths are denied in philosophy. The metaphor for evil in holy books, horror movies, and everywhere else. The one whom God-fearers claim to shun, but secretly bargain with behind closed doors. The other subject. The anti-hero without whom stories lose their meaning. Yes, I am the demon. The author is a demon. Oh, my friend, these stories will continue until the apocalypse.